All right. Usually I give this talk in class, but with the way everything is running lately, I'm going to go ahead and do it here on Blackboard 2 as a lecture over the internet. One of the things that I like to go over with my classes is the writing process because some people take a look at writing, and I think the biggest problem with writing is the way that people only get to see the finished product all the time. You don't get to see all the work that goes into it. You walk into the library, and by golly, there are all these books, and it looks so wonderful. And it's like, why can't I do that? Well, they didn't come out perfect like that. Everything is a process. Now, a process is defined as a series of actions, changes, or functions bringing about a result. And when writing, everyone has a slightly different process. And I'm hoping that the result of your writing process will be pieces of writing you can be proud of. There are 5 different steps in a writing process, and they may occur and reoccur in any order. Notice here I said a writing process, not the writing process. There is no one right way to do this. So these steps are all part of the writing of a writing process, but they might occur in different order than I put here. They might go back and you might go back and do something more than once. That's okay. That is perfectly fine. The steps are pre-writing, drafting, revising, editing, and publishing. These are the normal 5 steps that you would see in a writing process. We'll start with pre-writing. Now, pre-writing to me was always kind of a silly word. I mean, what are you going to do? Write before you write? It made no sense to me. It's kind of like preheating an oven. What are you going to do? Make an oven hot before it's hot? An oven exists in one of 2 states, either heated or unheated. So it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And then I was in Selma one year giving a presentation to teachers and brought that up about pre-writing. And one of the teachers there, an English teacher from Selma, raised her hand and said, well, when you preheat an oven, that means you're getting the oven hot and to the correct temperature before you put the food in. And that helps the food cook more evenly and the whole meal comes out better. Maybe with pre-writing, it's the same thing. You know, you're getting your brain up to the right place so that when you begin writing your paper, everything just flows more smoothly and it comes out better. Well, I had to think about that for a second. And when I did, I just looked at her and I said, thank you. I had never thought about it that way, but it makes a lot of sense. And I'm going to steal that from you. And I'm horrible, horrible, horrible with names, but I will always tell people that I got that idea from that nice teacher in Selma, Alabama, who came up with that idea for pre writing. So I have given her credit yet again. There are lots of ways to do pre writing. It's just when you're gathering ideas together. You can do it before you start writing. You can do it whenever you find yourself getting stuck after you start writing. If you write a page of your paper or a paragraph of your paper and suddenly you're stuck for ideas, you can go back and do pre writing strategies to help you get ideas to keep going. Uh, Poor Chuck here. Come on, Chuck. Pre writing. Think about it. You've got this poor fella thinking about trying to get his ideas together. I got to tell you, pre writing is a whole lot less painful than pounding your head against something. I can tell you from experience. This guy saying, people say I'm uncreative. Any ideas what I should do about it? Well, I would say try doing some pre-writing. Here you've got a kid bouncing his ball, and because it's a comic strip, the dog is talking to him and saying, "What you writing?" He says, "A list of excuses in case my super duper ball punches a hole in the ozone layer." Well, listing is one pre-writing technique, and we'll be working with that very, very soon. In fact, probably the next thing you'll do after this, watching this video and writing a blog post on it, will be to work on a listing exercise that I have for you. And we'll get more information on different types of pre-writing techniques. I've got some things I'm going to ask you to read that really are going to help you get things together for your writing. Pre-writing is a step that a lot of people try to skip. They try to go straight to writing their paper without taking the time to put their ideas together first, to get their ideas out there. I cannot overemphasize how important it is to do pre-writing. So work on that and make sure you've got that going for you. And then, of course, the next stage is drafting. That's when you write your paper. Okay, now the first draft is the first version of your writing. Okay, this is where you focus more on just getting your thoughts down and less on spelling, grammar, and mechanics. You can fix those later as you need to. Again, drafting is where you're getting your paper into shape. This is where you start writing it in paragraph form. You start putting it together so that it looks like something like an essay. Okay, now a lot of times what I'll get is somebody who'll write their first draft and that's where they stop. They feel like they can never change anything. And that's not how it works. And I'll talk about that more in revision. It says, it's well known rewriting is much easier than writing, so I always try to write my second draft first. Well, don't do that. Remember, keep first things first. Get those ideas down in the rough draft phase, and you can fix them later. Remember that a first draft is meant to be terrible. Okay, if your first draft is really awful, that's okay. You get to go back and fix it. It's easier to go back and fix something than it is to work on something that you've never written down in the first place. So get that first draft done. And when you're done with that, we'll go into revising. Okay, when you're revising, this is when you look at your paper again. It's right there in the word, revision. See again. In this stage of the writing process, you're looking to improve the content of your paper. You're not just here to correct errors. A lot of English teachers go from writing that first draft to fixing the grammar. This is where you're going to look at the content of your paper. How it's put together, what's in it, does it need to be there, does anything need to be added? Yeah, I've been there before. So it's okay. Even lame excuses can become better with revision. Now, people say, how do I revise? Well, there are several ways you can revise your paper. Here's a few of them. You can add more details and or more information. My basic rule of thumb is if you're asking yourself, do I need more information here? Do I need more details? Do I need more support? The answer is going to be yes, you do. So, yeah, first drafts can use more specifics, almost always. can delete unnecessary details or information. And that's hard. Sometimes you'll have a really great paragraph, but it doesn't fit what you're doing. It goes off your thesis. It doesn't add to your paper. It's a nice piece of writing, but it's not helpful to this particular project. What I found is helpful for me is I keep an extra file open on my computer, an extra Word file that I call, scraps or bits or something like that. And if I have to cut something out and it's painful for me to cut, I will just take it out of that one, my actual first draft, and I'll put it in the other file so that I have it if I need it. I almost never need it, but I have it there, and it makes it easier for me to take things out of a paper. So if you're feeling that revision angst of, taking things out that you like, you kind of got to get over that, because sometimes that's what happens. Move parts of your writing around. Maybe you have to change the order that you put things in. Yoda wouldn't be Yoda if his sentences weren't rearranged to sound differently. When you're writing your essay, you might have to move a paragraph, change the order of your paragraphs to have a stronger argument come first. Don't be afraid of that. I had a student one time who came to, this was when I was teaching 7th grade, and I told them start a new paragraph every time you start a new idea. I made that a really hard rule for them. And she had written her first draft, and she came up to me, and literally every sentence was a new paragraph, because every sentence went to some different idea. And she was much too polite to say it, but she gave me a look that said, okay, you got me into this, get me out of it. So what I did is I looked at her paper and I read the first sentence and I put a number 1 by it. And then I kept reading, and after a while I came to another sentence that kind of was on the same subject as that first sentence. So I put a 1 by that. And I kept doing that all the way down her paper, and I found enough sentences that when she rearranged them and put them together into one paragraph, they made sense. Now I was about to start with number 2 when she said, I've got the idea, and she took it and she went back and fixed her own paper, and it came out well because she moved the pieces of her paper around to a way that made more sense. Don't be afraid of rearranging things. Now, we'll talk more about revision the rest of the term. It's the heart of good writing. You'll be revising some with your peers. You'll be working with me. We're going to work on this because that is, to me, the heart of good writing is that revision process. Then comes editing. Editing is the part that most people are aware of because this is what a lot of English teachers in high school and down focus on. This is where you're looking on correcting your errors in spelling, grammar, mechanics, all of that stuff. And that's an important step. I'm not trying to minimize it, but I'm trying to put it in its correct place. Until you've got your ideas down, you should not be concentrating on fixing mistakes. Now, if you see one early in a different part of the process, can you fix it? Of course you can. But, put the emphasis on your editing right before you're getting ready to turn the paper in. And again, there are ways that I can help you with that too. It's an important step, but it's not the first step or the second step. And you want to watch your typos when you're doing this. I've had people who turn in Their papers, they've run the spell check and they're real happy with it, but the spell check won't tell you the difference between 2TO, 2TOO, and 2TWO. It won't tell you the difference between, you know, access and excess if you get the words mixed up. So you have to go through and check that out also right near the end. Because letting an error slip through, it can totally change the meaning of what you have written. I notice you print your assignments without proofreading them. I too like to live dangerously. Don't live dangerously. Proofread. Trust me. And then publishing. Publishing is easy. Well, it's sharing your writing with others. When you are doing your peer revision, you're publishing right then because you're sharing your writing with your classmates. That's cool. When you turn your writing into me for a final grade, that's publishing. You're sharing it with me. When you're doing a blog post entry and you put it up there on the blog for everyone to read, you're publishing. So everybody in the class is already a published author because you have been doing that work in the blogs. So congratulations, you've already been a published author in this class. That's it. Those are the 5 steps in a writing process. Whatever order you take them in is great. Now I've got a folder in the Blackboard that I'm about to open this called Writing Process folder. I want you to read through that, especially the section on pre-writing. And that's going to be something you're responsible for the next class, is having read through, at the very least, the pre-writing section of that. And I'm going to set up an exercise for you to do to help you get practice with at least one kind of pre-writing. So that's it. If you've got questions, you can play this video again, or you can email me, find me on Remind, however it is you need to get to me, and we will get through this.